Hello, and welcome to the Selectmen's meeting for February 11th, 2014. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Roll call.
Colin McNabb present.
Sulicio present. I'd like to announce that the meeting is being tape recorded. Chairman's additions or deletions. I don't believe we have any. 1.4, review and approve meeting minutes from January 14th, 2014. Had a chance to look at them?
I did. I move that we approve the meeting minutes from January 14th, 2014.
Second. Any questions, changes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2.1, Sue Funioli, Town Clerk, to provide reminders on the annual census and dog licenses. Sue?
Good evening. Yes, remember to return your census. You may call our office, or you may drop the envelope by if you prefer that rather than putting it in the mail. Dog licensing, the #1 tag is going to be drawn this Friday, February 14th. And we will announce the winner of the #1 tag at the next Selectmen's meeting. I think that's the 25th. And I'd like to remind everybody that March 1st is the last day, or is the first day of the $10 late fee if you haven't registered your dogs by then. Voter registration for the special town meeting, which is March 11th, is going to be Saturday, March 1st. I will be in Town Hall from 9 to noon, and voter registration cards will be available at the police station again from 9 in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. If you're already a voter, you don't need to register to vote again unless you have moved within town. There are still boards for our local election in April that have no candidates running for them. We have an assessor position, 2 at-large North Middlesex Regional School District Committee positions, a planning board position for 3 years, a planning board position for 5 years. Townsend Housing Authority has 2 positions, one a 3-year and one a 5-year. The trust fund commissioners have 2 positions, a 3-year and a 2-year. Trustees of Soldiers Memorial have 1 non-veteran, and the water commissioners have 1 one-year position. If you're interested in helping the community in any way, and any of those positions interest you, give us a call. We'll tell you how you have to go about becoming a nominee and getting your name on the ballot for April.
When's the last day
The last day to take out papers is the 7th, and they have to be returned by March 10th.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to the #1 tag contest winner.
Okay, thank you, Sue. 2.2, Chief Klein, Fire EMS Chief Klein, is here for the following. First one is review and accept the FY 2014 Student Awareness of Fire Education and Senior Safe Grant from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security to the Fire EMS.
Yes, we were again awarded our SAFE grant again for this year for the SAFE program that we do in the school. We also were awarded a $2,600 grant in conjunction with that for Senior Safe, which is a new program that the state is starting to offer for our senior citizens. And my SAFE program coordinator, Lieutenant Cormier, will be putting together a program to start this year with the seniors. He'll be getting with our local senior center as well as some of the other senior organizations in town to get that program up and going.
So these are programs that you you use that money to do programs?
Yeah,
With
we
with the
it's-
students?
Students, it's, some of it's used for props and stuff that we use at the schools. Other is for the salaries for the individuals that come in to teach the program. And for the kids, at the end, we have gift bags that they get, you know, T-shirts, whatever. And there's usually a breakfast for the student who has the best artist project that they turn into us as part of the overall SAFE program. So,
Kids usually like those
Well, they
things
do.
too. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Now, you want a motion to accept the 6904, correct?
correct.
And the other one that you mentioned? It's not
The
on
six-
here.
That covers both of them.
Oh, okay.
I move to accept the FY 2014 Student Awareness of Fire Education Safe Program, Safe and Senior Department and Senior Safe Grant from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security to the Fire EMS Department in the amount of $6,904.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
2.2.2, vote to declare surplus miscellaneous fire EMS department equipment. Chief Klein.
You should have a list that I provided Mr. Sheehan with, that these are items that are of no value any longer. They're either broken equipment or radios and lights and stuff that we've had that we've stripped for parts to keep other radios and lights going. So they have no resale value. We're going to take them to the local metal shop and see what we can get for scrap metal.
I move to declare surplus miscellaneous Fire EMS Department equipment.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2.2.3, vote to approve write-offs of ambulance receipts for calendar year 2011. Seems like the year goes fast, doesn't it?
It certainly does. This is for 2011. These are accounts that we've done everything possible to collect on. They're either people that had no ability to pay. Some of them are transients that lived in the apartment buildings, had no insurance. There was no way to collect on them. At this point in time, after 2 years, we're at the point where we need to write this amount off.
Is this what it typically runs? I don't remember.
No, it's been climbing over the last few years. Typically, it's been under 20,000 a year that we write off of this kind, but that excludes the Medicare stuff that we just automatically write off because we can't collect on. Unfortunately, we're also noticing too, just as a little background, that our accounts receivable has been increasing over the last few years. 4 years ago, we had it down under $100,000 in the accounts receivable account, and right now we're running at about 236 or 246,000, and it seems to be climbing every year, which is a real concern to me. And I've discussed this with our town accountant that at some point we might want to start thinking of getting a collection agency to start looking into collecting on some of this. Otherwise, we're going to be writing off a lot of money. A lot of it, though, unfortunately, a lot of it, as we go through and look at it, are senior people who don't have the ability to pay. And it's unfortunate because what people don't seem to realize is that they're going to pay it one way or the other. They're either going to have to pay their bill, or they're going to have to pay higher taxes in order to support the ambulance service.
I have a question. In terms of the receivables, I mean, I'm looking at these lists and I'll just guess there's 45 individuals listed or individual amounts. The receivables that you're mentioning, is it because the number of them is growing?
The number of receivables are growing.
Okay, so the number of ambulance trips growing?
Yes, our billings are up, have been steadily growing over the year. I think last year our billings went out a little over 600,000. I think we'll go over 700,000 this year in billings if we keep at the current pace. But we can also see our write-offs are increasing substantially, especially in the Medicare arena. Not much I can do about that.
I just wonder if there's a correlation with the aging population.
It certainly does. And I think you're going to see more and more of it over time as the baby boomers become senior citizens.
Happens to all of us.
Unfortunately.
Lucky to be here.
Beats the alternative.
I move that we approve the write-offs of the ambulance receipts for calendar year 2011.
Do you need the amount in the motion?
Yes.
In the amount of $36,038.37.
Thank you. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 3.1, review draft fraud policy for inclusion in the updated personnel policies manual. Andy?
The, one of the items in the audit last year, 2 years ago, called for the town to adopt a fraud policy, just to lay out what is acceptable and more than that, lay out what clearly define or delineate what is unacceptable. And so we've done that. We looked at some policies that had been adopted by other communities, sent it off to town council for their comments. And what you have before us is a final version or final draft of what we presented to town council and incorporated their comments. It will need to be included in the personnel rules, personnel policies when we bring that back for adoption by the elected boards and committees. But in the meantime, I wanted to bring it to the board, make sure that the board was okay with it. And we'll also have to bring it to the unions for their adoption as something that affects work rules. It has to go through the unions as well. So no really formal action is required by the board tonight, other than if you're so inclined, a sense of whether it's satisfactory, if there's changes or additions you want to make.
I'm all set with it. I think it's a good thing to have. The question that I had was if, I mean, we're going to adopt the policy, and obviously it's brand new for everybody. You're going to run it by the unions,
Right.
and at that point, would we distribute it to all current
Yes,
municipal employees?
yes, we would.
And
And there's a,
just so that everybody gets a copy of it
correct,
to sign.
yeah, and there's a sign off in there so that they acknowledge the receipt of that. We do that with a number of our policies.
Okay.
So, and the idea or the plan is to incorporate it into the revised personnel policy, so it would all go out at the same time.
Okay.
I read through it. It was relatively straightforward.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I'm okay with approving it tonight.
Works for me.
I'm okay too.
I move to approve the draft fraud policy for inclusion in the updated personnel policies manual.
And I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Three point two, review and approve curbside solid waste contract extension.
We've been with Chris Janota from the Board of Health, Carla Walter, the Health Administrator, and Tessa David from Mass TOS. We've had some negotiations with Glenn Shaw from GW Shaw and Sons about a potential extension of the solid waste contract. We've had Shaw's in here for a number of years. Their current contract runs out at the end of June. What we have, I should back up. Looking really just to update the board on what we've all come to agreement on, not asking for the board to vote or sign anything tonight, but that will be coming probably, hopefully as soon as the next meeting. So, but anyways, we had a number of meetings with Shaw's and talked about some changes to the program, things that we'd like to see, things that they offered as options to us. We talked about a variety of different time lengths. What we eventually settled on was a 1-year contract extension. It would maintain the weekly trash collection and the bi-weekly recycling, unlimited volume of recycling. It would reduce the number of barrels from 3 barrels a week to 2 barrels a week for trash. So that's from roughly 99 gallons to 66 gallons of trash on a weekly basis. And then in terms of the important stuff that we look at in terms of the budget, the haul, what we call the haul price, the price that we pay for them to drive around and pick up the trash, will increase slightly from $416,000 to $434,000. However, the tipping fee will drop from $77.25 per ton to $73 per ton. So we're confident that the overall, the net of the new contract, along with the changes to the number of barrels that people can put out, will result in a reduction. It's hard to predict how much that reduction will be. In 2013, which is the last full year that we had 2,588 tons of trash. Right now in fiscal 14, we're trending for just over 2,500. So if we drop down again another barrel, we're hopeful that there'll be a more significant drop-off in the tonnage. So
More we recycle.
exactly. The more we recycle, the better. Saves us on the tipping fee. So that $73 a ton adds up in a hurry. So for fiscal 15, we're going to level fund the budget at $625,000. If the tonnage doesn't change, we'll come in at just about that. But again, we expect the tonnage to drop as a result of the reduction in the number of barrels that can put out. We did also look at weekly recycling and whether Shaw's could come and pick up recycling on a weekly basis rather than a bi-weekly basis. However, that would have added somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 to the contract, just to the haul price, and we couldn't justify it.
So basically, until we can reduce the trash part of it enough to be able to cover the recycling, the additional pickup.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And the other thing that the Board of Health is interested in is a wheeled toter, a barrel with wheels for every household. There's good and bad to that. The good is that it makes it very clear to the guys that are picking up the trash how much you can put out. It makes it clear to the household how much they can put out. You can fill it. If you can close the top, the trash man will take it away. If you can't fit it in there, you'd have to buy a special bag or something like that. So that's, there's a sort of clarity to the system if you have toters. And it's believed in some corners to be a neater system because everything is contained and there's less blowing around and things like that. There's always a downside. Toters for every household would run us about $200,000. And so we either do that by a capital outlay on the part of the town, or we roll that into a contract, and the contract would typically need to be at least a 5-year contract in order for that $200,000 cost to be amortized over the life of the contract. And then you're stuck with that size toter for the life of the toter, generally 5 to 10 years, probably closer to 10 years. So we couldn't really come to an agreement on the best approach to go forward with. That will be something that will get discussed in the future. The Board of Health, as I said, is quite interested in going in that direction. And so we'll be having some additional conversations in the future. But so for now, I do have a draft extension. We're waiting for Shaw's to sign it, and once they sign it, Board of Health can sign it, and then the Board of Selectmen can sign it. So.
Any questions?
Okay, 3.4, vote to, review notice of intent to sell land classified under General Law, Chapter 61B, recreational land, and vote to exercise the right of refusal, assign the right of refusal, or not exercise the right of refusal. Well, that's clear.
The so-called land classification statutes, Chapter 61, 61A, and 61B, which deal respectively with forestry land, agricultural land, and recreational land, are among the wordiest on the books of the Commonwealth. Essentially what it does is for land in either of those three types, it allows a property owner to pay a reduced property tax assessment in return for keeping the land open, and it gives the municipality the right of first refusal if the owner wishes to sell or convert the land. So even if they're not selling, but they're going to turn that horse farm into a subdivision, there's an opportunity for the community to step forward and buy that land. The town has in this case, this is a piece of recreation, classified as recreation land. There's a purchase and sale agreement between the owners and a prospective buyer, and the town, under the statute, has 120 days from the date that we received notice, which was just 29 days ago. 120 days to exercise its option or make a determination on its option. The town can step forward and try to buy the land, try to get an appropriation to buy the land, can ignore the or refuse the option and allow the sale to go forth, or the town can assign the option to a nonprofit or the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We're required to hold a hearing before making a decision on that, and consistent with what I mentioned before about the statute being a little wordy, it also has a kind of a gross omission or misstatement, makes reference to a public hearing held pursuant to the provisions of another statute, which has now since been repealed. So, so we're getting to the bottom of what we need to do in terms of a hearing. But there is interest on the part of the Mass Department of Conservation and Recreation. This property is bounded on two sides by other land owned by the Commonwealth, and it is, Leslie is here. She has viewed the land, and it is, as she would tell you if you asked her, quite a stunning piece of land. The DCR has viewed it, and they have interest in it. So it may be that when we have the hearing, DCR is in a position to take the assignment of the land. So there's no action needed by the board tonight, other than just an instruction to schedule a hearing according to the statute, and we will do that. And
Do you want a motion to that effect?
I suppose just to
get it into the record that-
Yeah.
Motion that we're having a hearing?
Motion to schedule a hearing under Chapter 61B.
I move that we schedule a hearing under General Law, Chapter 61B.
Second. And this is in reference to,
Land on Barker Hill Road.
okay. Questions?
I just wondered where it was, that's all.
Barker Hill Road.
So I have one question.
Sure.
So the intent is that somebody wants to build on it?
Yes, yep. In the purchase and sale, it says a
Two houses, I think.
land for two houses.
But the Department of Recreation is interested in it.
They are,
And they
yeah.
have first dibs, so to speak.
Well, the town can assign the right to DCR or to a land trust or
Okay.
other Commonwealth agency. Leslie, did you want to speak or not?
I wasn't prepared to.
Okay.
I can enthusiastically support DCR purchasing it. It is a stunning piece of land, great views to the east, and I won't like the stone walls around the property, but beautiful cultural resources on there as well.
So-
And frontage on Barker Hill Road.
I have a question, Andy. So we're not paying, we're not getting money for taxes on this land right now?
We're getting, we get a reduced amount.
Reduced amount. Okay, so if this ended up being assigned over to DCR, that would be like
Then
under
we,
pilot?
yes, it would come under pilot.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Okay.
But
Did
then
we
we would,
vote?
we did vote. But then we're missing an opportunity if they do build houses on it for that tax revenue.
In that sense,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always the argument of whether residential development pays for itself. Generally thought that residential does not pay for itself when you factor in education. If you take a long view, you take, ownership by, a family for 30 years, then it probably over the long term, it probably pays for itself. But the educational costs of one of those houses probably trumps the tax revenues of both properties.
Thank you.
Did we vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. 3.4, vote to dissolve the Townsend Meeting Hall Committee consistent with the vote of the Meeting Hall Committee.
We've had a meeting hall committee since 2009. I think they were actually created prior to the town taking ownership of the Library Senior Center Meeting Hall
Or
complex.
thereabouts, anyway.
Yeah, and it was their charge to manage the meeting hall. And they did that for a number of years. There's been some change in the membership of the committee. If you recall, about a year and a half ago, we created a position of meeting hall coordinator. And that person, Melissa Herman, was the person we hired for that. She coordinated the scheduling, and she met with people who were interested in it, opened the building, closed the building, things like that. The funding for that position pretty much was guaranteed by a contract that we had with Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers has since terminated the contract. They've found a different place to have their sessions. We don't have any steady stream of income, and frankly, the logistics of managing that and scheduling and answering the questions and meeting with people who are potentially interested in the site really don't make economic sense for the town. The library staff did it for a while, but it really became kind of overwhelming for them. That's why we went to the meeting hall coordinator. So we've had a number of meetings recently, and met with the meeting hall committee as recently as last week. Had met also with them previously and with members previously, and they voted last week to ask the selectmen to dissolve the meeting hall committee. We'll still use the meeting hall for library events and council on aging events and the occasional town event that might make sense to have it there. But the private events, the wedding showers and baby showers and birthday parties and things like that, we'll no longer be taking reservations for bookings for those kinds of events. And, you know, over time, obviously, this decision can be reversed if there's a hue and cry that, you know, we really need that, we need to make it work, then we can revisit that. Or if we get a tenant that, similar to Weight Watchers, that could be relied upon to cover our costs, then we could reconstitute that committee.
I just wonder how many people know that you could actually use that room if you wanted to.
Yeah, it's received a fair amount of a fair amount of press, and Stacy Shuttler might be able to shed a little bit of light on that. I mean, you see probably more than anybody the sort of off hours use of that facility.
Yeah, it's tricky because people want to use it at various times when we're not open or when the facility isn't open. So, you know, you need somebody to come and let them in, let them out, make sure that they've cleaned up after themselves. It sounds like it's not a lot of work, but it is, and people have about 600,000 questions, you know, when they want to rent it out. They want to know everything, they're going to pay money for it, you know, they want to know a lot. And then I think that there are a lot of people who do know that you could rent it out. Melissa and I have both talked about it. I think Melissa spent a lot of time entertaining people's questions, and then they would decide not to rent it out. So that is the bulk of what happens with the job. And, you know, the library gets the questions because people assume that Melissa worked at the library. So it created a lot of confusion for the people who potentially wanted to rent it out, because Melissa wasn't making a great deal of money. She wasn't on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So people would come to the library staff, and, you know, and it was very difficult to explain to them how it worked. You know, so then we found ourselves doing it anyways. You know, and the meeting hall committee really didn't seem to want to meet any more than the once a month. You know, I had suggested that possibly if they wanted to continue on, they would have to meet weekly, you know, and really start letting people in and out of the building. Because, you know, on Saturday we're open for 4 hours, you know, I mean, 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. So, you know, if somebody comes in there and, you know, has a baby shower and they're not ready to leave at 2 o'clock, then the library staff is just staying there waiting. There's not, you know, we don't have a, you know, facilities manager who's on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So, you know, if something goes wrong when somebody's renting out the building, people would be like, you know, oh, how come the light switch isn't working? So then, you know, the librarians who are generally there are playing electrician. So it was getting really tricky. And you know, like Andy said, the money that was coming in, I think the whole meeting hall committee, you know, I attended the meeting, I didn't feel it was really, there wasn't much money coming in. I think they took a loss last year, actually, with funding Melissa's position. So Chris Klish and I talked earlier today, and I told Chris I would come to the meeting in case you guys had any questions, and we both feel like, you know, we can still let people use the room, you know, during open building hours, and you know, we'll each create our own form, and you know, things, you know, such as like big food events and, you know, big parties and stuff like that probably won't happen, but if people wanna meet for, you know, a soccer meeting or, you know, uniform swap or something like that, that'll, you know. work out.
Does this mean basically that it's no longer available for people?
For the most part, yeah. Like Stacy said, during open hours, during the hours when the library or the senior center is open, it is still potentially available, depending on what else is scheduled there by the library or the senior center. But, you know, really the weekend events, the Friday evening, the Saturday afternoon, evening, Sunday afternoon, evening, those times are really, really going away.
Stacy has a question.
Yeah, I wish there was a, you know, meeting hall committee member here to answer some of your questions, because I'm not a committee member. I just wanted to let you know that the library was, and the senior center were okay with this development. But I think that was part of the problem we were running into. You know, there wasn't anybody there to, you know, perform these duties. And people will still be able to use it for most things. It's just big parties and things like that. There weren't that many throughout the year that actually took place. It was more questioning. And I would say, you know, for every 10 inquiries, they probably had one person actually, you know, use the room. But it was a lot of back and forth, a lot of back and forth.
And in your packet, I included a copy of the minutes from the meeting hall committee.
Okay.
And they actually had a resignation among them prior to their vote to dissolve the committee. So their ranks were dwindling anyways.
I mean, I'm fine with it, because it can always be changed back at another time, so there seems to be no need of it now.
I move to dissolve the Townsend Meeting Hall Committee consistent with the vote of the Meeting Hall Committee.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Vote to sign the March 11th, 2014 special town meeting warrant.
Got in front of you or in your packets tonight, the town meeting warrant for the March 11th meeting consists of 3 warrant articles, all related to the high school project. The first being, Article 1 being the $89 million borrowing authorization. The Articles 2 and 3 are alternate elements of the project. Article 2 being the maintenance facility, and Article 3 being upgrades to the athletic fields. Those 2 would be, as I said, alternates that may or may not be included as part of the project. Article 1 is really the important one. If this is positively acted on by the 3 communities on March 10th, 11th, and 15th, it will then appear as a debt exclusion article on the Springtown election warrant, election ballot on April 28th.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I have a question. This is the copy that you got the last time. It was presented to the school committee last night, and if I'm remembering correctly, one of the things that they said was that there was some small wording changes on the alternates. Did you get those?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yep, and those have been incorporated in the signature copy. They are, they were recommended by bond counsel.
Right.
They don't substantively change the meaning of the articles, but those have been incorporated in the version that I have for the board to sign tonight.
And the school committee voted for them last night. I left
Correct.
early, so.
Yes, they did, and we received notice from the school committee today.
Nice, okay.
Both electronically and in hand delivery.
Okay.
Yeah, I read it through it. It's pretty straightforward. I was glad to see quite a few residents have mentioned that they, if this is related to, say, a turf field or something like that, the Article 3, then I know quite a few people are very interested in that happening.
It actually, the only way that it's related, and the only reason I'm saying this is because I'm on the building committee, the alternate for the fields, one of the, it's to do some upgrades to the field, and because you'd be doing those upgrades to increase the size of the track, you would be disturbing the football field area.
Mhm.
In the process of disturbing the football field area, we also included in that alternate to lay the foundation that would be used if ever someone were going to come forward and put artificial turf. This is not for artificial turf.
Article 3 is not.
It is not for
Okay.
artificial turf. It is to do the work on the track, expanding the track, add some additional field seats, if you will, on the, what's the name of the road next door? Proctor Road side. And then, because they'll be taking down the bleachers that are over there, so they're gonna, the plan, if this were to pass, would be to put some field seats, like, tiered, if you will. And because they would have to disturb that, you might as well put the foundation if a group wanted to come forward down the road and had the money to do the turf field, you'd at least have had that done. Okay? But
Thanks
it
for
is not a
explaining
turf
that.
field.
Okay. I move, you ready for a motion?
I'm ready.
I move that we sign the March 11, 2014 special town meeting warrant.
I second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Colin, I'm going as fast as I can. You sound terrible.
Let me know if you want me to skip over anything on the agenda. I know that most of it is not that critical, so.
I'd rather just get it all finished with.
Oh, get all the germs out, you said?
Yeah,
I think we are gonna get them all.
What's that? Airborne. Go home and find the airborne.
but are you sure you want to touch that?
That's all right. My grandson's sick too, so. Okay, that was that. 3.6, review and approve one-day special license for Terry Roy, VFW, Post 6538 for a birthday party on March 1st, 2014, from 7 to 11 p.m.
I move that we approve the one-day special license for Terry Rory, VFW, Post 6538 for a fundraiser on March 8th, 2014, from 6 to 10 p.m.
And I will second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. 3.6 is done, right? Yes. 3.7, review and approve one-day special license for Terry Roy, VFW Post 6538, for a fundraiser on March 8th, 2014, from 6 to 10 p.m. When I read the motion, I read 3.7.
Oh, you did?
I did. So we actually have to approve 3.6.
Oh. Gee.
I just
Okay.
caught that.
We all set?
We're all set.
Okay.
Batting out of order.
Batting out of order. We already did 3.7, so 3.6, could I have a motion?
I move that we approve the one-day special license for Terry Roy, VFW Post 6538, for a birthday party on March 1st, 2014, from 7 to 11 p.m.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Signed the wrong one at the wrong time. I think we need to leave spaces between those from now on.
Or I could just pay closer attention.
That's all right. Well, none of us heard you say it wrong either, so. Okay. 3.8, update on the status of the Squanicook River Rail Trail. Just had a meeting on that.
We did. I'll try to make this quick for Colin's benefit. We had a meeting in the State House a couple of weeks ago with a couple of Squanicook Greenways members, Bill Rideout and Peter Cunningham from Groton, Bill from Townsend, Peter from Groton. We met with Senator Donahue and staff from Representative Harrington's office and Senator Flanagan's office, and met with representatives from MBTA and their land division, which is called Transit Realty, as well as DCR, the Division of Conservation and Recreation, and Mass Department of Transportation. And we'd been sort of going back and forth of how to get a lease, how could Squanicook Greenways get a lease on the rail bed in order to build the trail. And it got hung up in the bureaucracy and competing interests of the various state agencies. And what we got out of the meeting was an agreement from the MBTA and Transit Realty to put together a request for proposals, put it out on the street, advertising for an entity to come in and build a rail trail and have a 99-year lease. So it addresses all of the issues of the environmental liability and holding the town harmless so that the town has no liability. It protects the various, protects the MBTA, doesn't draw the Mass DOT or DCR into a project that they may or may not be good at or interested in. And so it seemed like we were all very pleased as we left the meeting. Seemed like we really made some progress on moving this project forward that's been talked about for a long time and has had overwhelming support in Townsend and Groton over the years. So we don't know, we don't have a timeline yet for when the RFP will be issued, but Squanicook Greenways is waiting for that, and we'll jump on that as soon as that's issued. So no further action on the part of the board, just wanted to update the board members and the public on that.
Okay. Any questions, Colin? 3.9, update on net metering credit negotiations with Lunenburg.
Yeah, we've had a number of discussions about this over the last year or so. There were a couple of solar projects being proposed in Lunenburg, and under the various energy efficiency and green community statutes that the Commonwealth has adopted, there are opportunities for communities to receive what are called net metering credits. Essentially, that is comes out to about a 15% credit on utility bills, electric bills, 15% per kilowatt hour. The way this originally came to Lunenburg, there were two distinct projects by separate developers that were planning to build solar projects, and when the town was negotiating net metering agreements and power purchase agreements with both of the entities, there would have been a surplus of electricity from the projects, and Lunenburg reached out to Townsend and offered that surplus to us. It would have been variable, and we had estimated the value to Townsend at somewhere in the $25,000 to maybe as much as $50,000 per year range. Unfortunately, there has been a change in the in the two projects in Lunenburg, and one of the projects got delayed and may or may not take place. The other project got expanded in scope, got enlarged, and it has now exceeded a threshold so that it is no longer a project that is a net metering project. Lunenburg will still get the benefit of cheaper power, discounted power, roughly what they would have received under a net metering project. But anything that they can't use goes away. Those credits are not transferable. So unfortunately, through no fault of anybody's, just the nature of the project and the two projects morphing and one project expanding in size, we will no longer get the benefit of those net metering credits.
It sounded nice.
It did sound nice. Fortunately, we didn't build it into our budget, and so we don't have to do any scurrying around. But it would have, like with the green communities, it's always nice when you can shave your electric bill or your gas bill, and unfortunately, we'll have to look elsewhere for that kind of savings. So.
Okay. 3.10, update on addressing items in the FY12 audit and update on FY13 audit.
Yeah, I just wanted to provide a quick update to the board. We haven't talked about the audits in a while. We had a couple of fiscal years in a row where there were deficiencies noted by the auditors, mostly in the area of Treasury and collections. We have been working to address those. As everybody's aware, we've had a transition down there where our longtime treasurer collector retired, and we now have two interim people filling those two roles, part-time treasurer, part-time collector, both on an interim basis. So they've been working since they got here. Kate Stacy, the treasurer, came on board in November. Beth Ann Scheid, the collector, came on board in January. So they've been getting up to speed, getting caught up on some things that needed to get caught up on, and working with Kim Fales, the town accountant, and Vicki Tidman, the assessor, to address some of the issues that have been raised. Some of these are also addressed in the Department of Revenue Management review, financial manager review that was done in 2011, and so the first is the cash reconciliation process. We had lagged in our reconciliations. We're largely caught up now for fiscal 14, and moving forward to continue on, make sure that we stay on top of all that. I will say that we only could go back to July 1 of 2013, the start of fiscal 14. That was really our initiation date to get things in order, and so we will be in the fiscal 13 audit that will be coming out in a month or two. Most of these issues will appear again. They won't go away until we have a fiscal year where they're addressed. So, but we're making good progress on the reconciliations. Item 2 was improved controls over water activity. The auditors and the DOR had raised concerns with the water department being both the agency that commits the bills and collects them and abates them. The superintendent has made some recommendations, looked into some things. There's no substantive progress to report there, however. So that's going to be a decision I think the board will need to to address and, decide if you want to just leave that material weakness in place and allow the water collections to remain where they are, or bring them over to Town Hall, which is what the DOR and the auditors have recommended. So the item 3, the risk assessment process, that's the fraud policy that I had before you earlier in the night. Tax title accounts, we're working through that. We've got, we had lagged quite far behind on tax titles, on delinquencies, and so we're going to be working on that over the next few weeks to try to address that. Probably put them together into, potentially into an auction them off, which is something that communities do with tax titles. And you basically sell them, and you assign the right of a private party to go collect or take the ownership of the property. So so we'll have more on that in the coming months. And then the final item in the 11 audit was on the assessor's side, was to maintain a log of abatements, and that has been done. So so we're making progress. The staff has been very good, working diligently on their own, working together as a team to try to address these things. It was a lot of things that needed to be taken care of, and we're getting through those.
So are we all set for the newest audit?
Well, the auditors will be in probably in March. We expect them to come in, and they'll be doing the audit for fiscal 2013, the year that ended last June 30th. Many of these items, because they were not addressed prior to the close of fiscal 13, will reappear again. What we're trying to do is to get things cleared up so that a year from now, or less than a year from now, when we have the fiscal 14 audit, we have a clean management letter.
So even if those appear in the next management letter, it doesn't mean that they haven't been resolved. It's just that it looks at a point in time.
It's a point in time.
Okay.
If they weren't done by that point in time, then they're treated by the auditors as having not been done. Yeah, so.
Okay,
What I got.
thank you. Discussion of draft of town administrator goals for 2014. I apologize because I started to make some notes on it and I never got to you on time.
Do you want to table it till the
Yeah,
next meeting?
would you mind? I'm sorry.
I don't mind at all. I have a
meant
couple
to-
things that
Okay.
that I
all right.
wanted to-
Maybe each one of us individually
Yeah.
get back to Andy and then he can put them all together.
Yeah, I made a couple comments to Andy before, but I'll
Okay.
write them all down and I'll email.
Okay. I'm sorry, I've just been,
It's all right. We're all busy.
okay, so can we just put that on the next
Sure.
meeting,
Yep.
please? Thank you.
Actually, one thing, so
Yes.
Andy, could you send me like a electronic copy of that,
Of the goals?
of the goals, just so I can, and I'll use the editing on Microsoft Word to make my comments. Thank you very much.
312, review request from Northeastern Land Services, land agent to Tennessee Gas Pipeline Company for survey permission to enter town-owned land to conduct surveying associated with the proposed Northeast Expansion Pipeline.
So, this project requires a little bit of background. Tennessee Gas and its parent company, a company called Kinder Morgan. Tennessee is a subsidiary of Kinder Morgan. They are proposing an extension of gas pipelines that would reach out to western Pennsylvania to tie into either other sources of gas or other pipelines. The Northeast Expansion project runs roughly from Albany to Drake, Albany, New Hampshire New York to Drake, Mass. It runs generally along the New Hampshire border, through the northern rim towns of Massachusetts, right through Ashby and Townsend and Pepperell and other communities. This is a project that's going to take a while for it to come to fruition. And at this point, Tennessee, through Northeastern Land Services, which is a company that does their land, their easement work and survey work, they're in the process now of laying out a preliminary route, or have laid out a preliminary route, and now they want to get on the ground on those various parcels and start to do some survey work, see where the wetlands are, see where the hills are, where the valleys are, all of that. They have requested from the Board of Selectmen permission to enter a couple of parcels of town-owned land and do survey work. They've also requested, separate from this, permission from the Conservation Commission to enter a couple of parcels of conservation land to also do survey work. This is preliminary to any land acquisition that they may do, but it is that is a future step. The land agent came in late this afternoon with a revised set of paperwork for us and revised maps. I haven't had the chance to look at all of what these are. He also is he understands that these are controversial projects and projects that have a lot of questions associated with them. He is willing to come in and talk to the board and make a public presentation to the board if that is necessary. If that's the direction the board wants to go, it'll probably be late March or April.
Is there any direct benefit to the town of Townsend for this, for allowing them to come through Townsend? Well, I know the answer, but I want to.
None that's
It's like a
yet.
highway, You may drive it. You may not want it right near your house. You may have natural gas at your house. You may not want the pipeline in your property. So it's it's an indirect benefit, I would say. However, there are some, there's some legal considerations. At some point, Kinder Morgan or Tennessee Gas will have, if this project starts to go through the permitting and is well received at the federal and state level, they will probably receive eminent domain rights. So I say that not to try to sway the board in any way or sway any property owners, but just so that you know what's coming down the pike. I don't think it's quite as broad as what the railroads had in the mid-1800s in terms of land condemnation rights, but the federal government and the Department of Public Utilities in Massachusetts understands the need for the infrastructure and is generally supportive of the infrastructure and will facilitate that. So I know, Sue, that you have some concerns about it.
I do. I have a few concerns. I would like to have you send, if Colin agrees, to have you send them a letter thanking them for notifying us and asking if we could have someone come in. And what I would like to see is a detailed map of precisely where through the town they are proposing to come. I'm concerned about the wetlands we have. I'm concerned about the conservation land. I'm concerned about our river.
It does
And-
cross the Squanicook, correct?
Yeah, see,
Yes.
it
Yeah.
looks as though it's gonna cross, their plan is to cross the Squanicook down the harbor somewhere. And I'm concerned with that. I'm concerned about the timeline, because the proposed timeline, were this to occur, might fall just around the same time that they're doing construction of the new high school, God willing, if that goes through. So hopefully they're not planning to go through where the high school is, too.
They're not planning to go on that property.
Okay, so, I mean, I just don't have enough information. The other concern that I have is it's very nice for folks to say, oh, well, we're gonna come and survey the land, and in some cases, as they said, we're going to need to drill some holes and take soil samples, et cetera. And we promise that we're not gonna make a mess of anything. And we promise to do it properly and according to all state and federal and local laws. My concern is, well, it's nice to make a promise, but it's not gonna do us any good if after the hole is dug, you didn't follow those, okay? So it's like, I'm concerned that someone comes in saying they're going to follow all of these rules, doesn't follow all of those rules, and that we end up with the mess afterward. And I want to know what kind of recourse we have. And I mean, this is just the survey. This is just the survey part. This isn't actually laying a pipeline. So it's not that I'm against the concept of bringing more gas into, you know, our area, and certainly into New England, but I need more information. And I would also, I think it would be beneficial for us to know what other communities have they come through already, and what kind of experience have those communities had. I want to know, they've done it somewhere before, they've worked in that area, they said they were going to do this, and I want to know that that is what they did, and that we're dealing with people that have a good reputation. If you would not mind, because Congresswoman Nikki Songus is so involved in conservation in this area, I gave her office a call. I spoke to Jane Adams in her Lowell office, and she asked that if we did send a letter, that we could we copy her on it as well, just to keep them apprised of what's happening. I know that Pepperell had a meeting last night. I have not gotten an update from Pepperell as to what happened.
They basically just asked for more information.
Okay.
They did not sign the waiver yesterday.
Okay. I think it would behoove us all, I mean, if you're just a small community and you're alone, it's not the same as it's going to affect Pepperell. Let's talk to Pepperell. If it's Ashby, Groton, you know, Fitchburg, whomever else is being affected, I think it behooves us to talk to all of those communities so that we're all on the same page about this is how it's happening, this is what's happening, how are we going to protect our land, meaning the town's land, but also, our precious natural resources and our landowners' resources.
Right. Yeah, and there are quite a number of parcels, both public and private, more private, that are affected or potentially affected by the project. So,
Might be a good idea to copy
John?
Rep. Hargraves.
Oh, yes.
And Jen Flanagan, too, Senator Flanagan.
Harrington, you mean?
Yeah, Harrington,
I
yeah.
think that you're dealing with something that is very significant. And if you Google, I've been doing this now since I learned about it. We have two of our business owners here in Townsend, MJS Metals, Carl Sullo and his son, Ryan. They own property on Jewett Street in Pepperell, and they've spoken with these representatives. And I would strongly suggest that whomever they come and speak with, you record those discussions. Because they use a lot of rhetoric, they use a lot of explanation, that you would be very surprised to see their quotes as they have been published in the Nestroba publications. They are not easy to get a handle on. There is a complete map of the proposed route line right now.
Well, Angie just got something today, but
If you could find
we haven't
where
looked
they-
at it yet.
where they first filed that. I've had a lot of experience with this type of activity in western New York. This pipeline goes well past Pennsylvania. It goes all the way to the Gulf Coast. It has many subsidiary lines that will hook up to it. The pipeline, as they wrote the article, doesn't go east to west. This material's coming west to east. If it offered some benefit to the local residents, that would be one thing, but it's going to a terminal site. And when you read what has been published, the day after an article ran in the Worcester Telegram, 2 weeks ago this Thursday, following day, the public relations firm for Kinder Morgan published an article that spoke to how very few complaints they had when they had announced this pipeline. So they're well ahead in doing things that are not obvious at the surface.
Yeah, well, what I want is for them to realize that they're not dealing with little towns that aren't aware of those kinds of things, and we can Google just as well as they can do PR.
And that's what you're going to have to do.
I have Googled.
And we found that they sent the same notices to the town of Nassau, Long Island. The exact form letter that was sent to Tinkerton, sent to
I found
Townsend.
that where they had come through in a community in Maryland was left in less than pristine condition when they were finished. And that is exactly why I'm saying I need a lot more information. Andrea?
It doesn't sound like, from what he said before, like we can do very much to stop them. It's got to be the state that stops them.
Well-
We've got to line ourselves up with them and get them in on this with our concerns and with us.
Right.
Because that's our big hope.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying I'm against the project. I don't know enough about it to know that, okay? I'm concerned.
But we have to be sure,
But-
if we're fully aware, that they're as fully aware as we are.
And that's why I called Congresswoman Tsongas's office They knew nothing about it until I called, okay? They want to keep apprised of it. Representative Harrington, Senator Flanagan, even though it doesn't affect a new law, having to write a new law or whatever, they're going to want to know what's happening in their communities. And
Gene said tapes. Maybe we should get videotapes when they came, and we could get them up and send them off to the representatives Flanagan's
well,
office.
we're inviting them to one of our meetings.
Right.
That will be taped, okay? We can publicize as well that we are having the meetings. We can invite the senator and representatives to our meeting.
But if they can't make it, we've got to see that they know about it.
Oh, yeah.
Whether
Exactly.
they come here or not, they are just going to hate us like a bad rash, but we are not going to let them alone over this issue.
I think it's important that we not set up an adversarial
Oh, no, I didn't
relationship,
mean it that
you know?
way, yeah.
But, and I'm not trying to do that. I'm just simply saying, I think our community, our landowners, our precious natural resources that we take so seriously in these communities.
But if we get rebuffed or they say, oh, we're taking that under consideration, I don't think we can let those things go with that. I think we have to still.
I think this could be a
stay with
unifying project,
Mm-hmm.
okay? I think it could be a unifying project for not just this community, but our neighboring communities as well. So it's good when people are concerned because it brings people together, and that's a good thing. So we'll try to make sure that everything's as well publicized as it can be as well. Okay? And I would just say to property owners that are approached, they have a right to ask more questions too. They don't have to sign. There's nothing that says you have to sign this. If you're not feeling comfortable with it, it's your land. You don't have to sign it. This is all preliminary survey work so that they can submit the proposal to take out the permits that they need to make that project happen. It's a long way out, but you can say no. Okay?
He said before that the state could take it by eminent domain. Do we have any control over that at all?
I don't think we're there yet. I mean, I think if all of the permits got approved, both local, state, and federal, okay? If 3 years from now, however long it takes for that to happen, and the pipeline were approved, I think at that point, eminent domain is eminent domain. It's just like, you know, laying waterways or wires, you know, cable, whatever. It's all easements, if you will. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
But
We're at the point where they're coming through here because they think this is the route that they want to take. And they need to be able to put their plan on paper so that they can submit it for approval. I'm just concerned about them disturbing things even in that process. So I think we just have to take one thing at a time. Let's listen to what they have to say when they come in and go from there. Okay? Okay. So at this point, we're not signing, okay?
Should we make a motion to not sign?
No, I think we're fine. We're just not going to sign it. 3.13, review and approve policy for administration of worthy funds.
We've talked about this over a couple of meetings, and the board asked me at the last time that we talked about this to put this outline into the form of a policy for the board's adoption, and I've done that to item 313 in
I got it.
your packet.
Do you have any questions on it?
Already read it.
Yeah.
No issues with it. That's
Okay.
straightforward. It'll help.
It shall cause a warrant to be processed for payment,
Right.
and
We
we
would
sign
pay it
that
like we
warrant
pay
the
any
same.
vendor, yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It'll be a-
It's the least red tape.
Correct.
It also
way of
allows
doing
the
things.
process to be more nimble.
Yeah, yeah. Take the red tape out of it, let the people get what they need.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I move that we approve the policy for administration of worthy funds.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Appointments, we have none. Board of Selectmen updates and reports. I have nothing. Do you have anything?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to give my condolences to the families of Wallace King and Mr. Hirsch from Hirsch Lumber. They both passed away this week, and they will be sorely missed.
Thank you. Town administrator updates, reports. Anything else?
No, I think I touched on everything I needed to.
Okay. 5.3, review and sign payroll warrant and bills payable warrant.
I make a motion to sign the payroll and bills payable warrants out of session.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move we adjourn at 8:22.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, all.
Good night, folks.